Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, a look at freeway infrastructure after the collapse of an I-10 bridge in California. The strongest El Nino in decades is expected for this winter, and we'll learn how to make the best decisions in caring for the elderly. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Interstate 10, the main artery between Phoenix and Los Angeles, is cut off because of a freeway bridge collapse in southeastern California. The roadway is closed indefinitely. Joining us now is Doug Nintzel of the Arizona Department of Transportation. Doug, thank you for coming in. Where exactly is this bridge located?
Well, I have to talk about California as an ADOT spokesperson, but yes, this location, I-10, about 50 miles to the west of the Arizona state line, so that's Desert Center. So anybody who's headed to Disneyland knows that's the long stretch and kind of a remote area as you're making your way over to the Los Angeles area and back. So that's what we're dealing with because it does affect us here in Arizona with the travel and the very important commerce coming back and forth between our two states. And
again, you are with the Arizona Department of Transportation. This is a Caltrans kind of a question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What do we know about what happened with this bridge?
Just a lot of rain in probably a short period of time, but we do know what was happening in terms of Dolores as a storm, and the remnants of the former hurricane wound up dumping a lot of rain on that part of California. So there's no doubt that a lot of water was coming down a wash and undermined the bridge in some way in terms of that pavement collapsing.
Now I-10 is closed. It was earlier closed at Quartzsite. Is that still the case?
No, the good news is in terms of being able to tell folks that you're not having to stop at the Arizona border, you can go on I-10 into California. State Route 177 is just before where this has occurred, and you can take that highway north and then west on Highway 62, which takes you into the Palm Springs area. Caltrans has set up those detour routes. There's also a detour route for folks who are coming back from Los Angeles. They can use another Highway 86, which eventually leads you on a detour route to get you down to I-8. I guess I should mention that from a standpoint of major highways, obviously I-40 in northern Arizona or I-8, the highway towards San Diego, are the interstate highways that are still available.
So an option would be to go down to Casa Grande, take I-8 to San Diego, and then go up to L.A.
That's correct.
Those California, do we know, are those two-lane highways over there?
Those are smaller highways. They're state routes, so I'm told those would be two-lane highways. And again, it is something for folks to be thinking about if they've got travel plans.
Now, we've heard that this freeway is closed indefinitely. What are you guys hearing? Give me a definition of indefinitely.
That's going to have to come through Caltrans. I can tell you that Caltrans will certainly be investigating what has to happen. They're going to have to spend some time determining what is the damage, what will it take to, first of all, make sure that one side, the bridge that is still there, and whether they can open that to two-way traffic at some time. The other thing that they'd be concentrating on will be the other project that will be to fix the bridge that actually collapsed.
The bridge that collapsed was, I guess, rendered or deemed functionally obsolete. Now, talk us through this, because you can either have a functionally obsolete bridge or a structurally deficient bridge, which is not good. All bridges federally, they look at all bridges and they put these designations in play, correct?
They do, and it is based on what happens with the inspection reports and how a bridge ultimately is rated or comes out on the grading scale as to whether it's going to be listed as structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. The key thing is that even on a more serious category like structurally deficient, it doesn't mean it's an unsafe bridge. It doesn't mean it's a bridge that's about to fall down. It means that repair needs have been identified through the inspection process, and it means that that bridge is likely going to be higher on the priority list when it comes to making repairs. Functionally obsolete is going to mean that in some way the bridge is not living up to, say, today's standards. It could be a more narrow bridge. It could be that a bridge has a clearance level that is not as high as today's standards would call for, and then you would have something where maybe the shoulders along the bridge are not as wide as we would like them to be in terms of today's standards.
And that California bridge was functionally obsolete as opposed to the more serious structurally deficient. In Arizona, how many structurally deficient bridges do we have? How many functionally obsolete bridges do we have?
And we do focus on structurally deficient here. I can tell you that on average, we have about 100 bridges that would be on a structurally deficient list. Now, we also have more than 4,800 bridges along the state highway system. So about 100, you're talking about less than 2% of the state's state highway bridges are structurally deficient. So we come out here in Arizona at the top of the rating scale. We grade out as one of the top 2 or 3 states when it comes to the condition of our bridge inventory, and we have to focus on those bridges as we have the available funding, and we always have to bring that subject up, limited funding to work on things. The good news is in working and focusing on preserving our existing infrastructure, we have worked with the State Transportation Board. They set aside $40 million per year on our preservation program, which includes the inspection of bridges and money that's going to go into these repairs, again, based on a priority system.
You mentioned limited funding. Why is the funding limited?
Well, because we're dealing with an antiquated system in terms of when, where the funding comes from and how it actually is moved forward. It is that we are a country that depends on gasoline taxes for funding transportation projects. Gasoline taxes for Arizona and around the country, they haven't been raised since the early 1990s. So we're trying to build a 2015 transportation system on an early 1990s funding mechanism. With vehicles getting better gas mileage, you're just not going to get the bang for the buck when it comes to that sort of thing. And we're trying to get folks to understand that sort of thing, where we have to make very difficult decisions to maintain the existing system that we have and do the best job we can with that, and have limited funding for new projects or projects where folks would like us to add a new lane along a highway in a very busy area. We have to say it's coming, we're planning for it, but right now we just don't have the funding for that, and that's really that's a real key thing.
And real quickly, is there any indication that that's going to change anytime soon?
I'd like to say yes, but it's really going to come down to the policymakers. And right now, the wrangling goes on in Washington, D.C. when it comes to the Federal Highway Trust Fund. We would like a reliable, sustainable funding system, and we would like the policymakers to think about something that might go beyond old levels of gasoline taxes and see, you know, what might happen. It's really going to come down to what the policymakers want when it comes to a transportation system, and it's going to come down to what you and I and those of us who will speak up on the issue and say, we've got to change some things.
Well, certainly things have changed along I-10 between Arizona and California. Doug, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ted.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
Forecasters are predicting an especially strong El Nino weather pattern for this winter. Indeed, this could be the strongest El Nino in 50 years. ASU climatologist Randy Cerveny is here to tell us more. He's also going to give us a monsoon update. A missing monsoon update if you ask me, but we'll get to that in a second here. El Nino, let's define terms. What is El Nino?
El Nino is a warming of the equatorial Pacific, and we had thought it was going to happen last year. It's decided it's going to happen this year, and it's doing it in gangbusters.
So talk to us about that. What are the patterns that you're looking for? What are you seeing?
Well, what we generally are going to see is more of an influence in our wintertime, but even now we're starting to get moisture coming up, as we just heard with the hurricane moisture from Dolores that came up that caused so much problems in California. But particularly in wintertime, that's going to be the kind of pattern that we will expect to see. A lot of moisture coming from the Pacific into Arizona.
But you're saying you're seeing indications. What are those indications now?
Indications right now are that the equatorial sea surface temperatures off the coast of South America are really ramping up much faster than we had actually anticipated. And so this is looking, if it continues, as previous El Ninos have occurred, like back in '98, back in '82, those kind led to some incredible precipitation over the Southwest.
Now, we talked about an El Nino last year, about this time, maybe a little bit later. It's like El Nino's coming. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good one. It was a bit of a flop, although it seemed like it happened late, but it wasn't quite as exciting as. So how come this is so exciting? Compare and contrast, please.
Well, what happened is last year in June, we had seen some early indications in May that it was going to happen, and then last June, all of a sudden, the Pacific cooled off. Well, it didn't this year. It's continuing to warm up and, in fact, getting even hotter. So we don't see anything that's going to slow this one down, and we anticipate that the pattern will stay not only through the rest of this summer, but all the way into next January or February.
So could this be, and I think you actually mentioned this, but I could be wrong about this, could it be that the El Nino we expected last winter just kind of stored itself up and waited for this winter?
Yeah, I think that's actually what's happened, because El Nino is an energy shift, and normally what happens is we have really warm waters off the coast of Australia, and they surge over to South America. Well, it didn't happen last year. Now it is, and we're suddenly getting all this moisture and hot water that's coming over into our side of the Pacific Ocean.
So with this in mind, when would the rains likely start?
Well, they're actually starting now. I mean, this moisture that we had with this last dying hurricane that came up into primarily California is the result of El Nino. That we have a lot more tropical activity in the Pacific, not so much in the Atlantic when we have El Nino. So the moisture that we're seeing right now is actually El Nino moisture.
But it could really, I mean, it could really kick up and do the winter rain kind of a scenario November-ish, perhaps?
Yeah, the Climate Prediction Center out of NOAA is actually predicting above normal precipitation for us from this next month all the way into February.
Holy smokes. All right, and it could last into February, you're saying? Because we know that El Ninos can go through spring.
That's right, that's right. It's a little harder once we get out that far in advance because patterns can change, but that's the initial idea, is that it could go all the way to February.
On average, if you are El Ninos either top-loaded or back-loaded? If you get a lot early, does it ease off later? If you don't get much early, does it hit later on? Is that
well, the trouble is El Ninos are very individual. Each one has got its own character. This is setting up a lot like one of the big ones like back in '82 or '98. So we're anticipating a lot of activity. Spurts, not going to be continuous storms from now till February, but spurts of very, very heavy rainfall.
Rainfall and snowfall, because El Nino's warm system here. We're going to get snow?
Snow, but you're right. Most of the moisture that we're going to get is going to be tropical in nature, and so we're going to get a lot more rain than we will snow, but it still shouldn't be a bad snow season up in the high country.
As far as the monsoon season, it's been a bit of a dud, at least for those of us in my neighborhood. I don't know about yours, but I keep waiting for the monsoon, and it looked like it was going to start early, and everyone was all excited, and then, you know, nothing. Even Dolores, I mean, the west side of the state just got hammered. West side of the valley gets in Wickenburg and everything. Nothing along, you know, my street. So what's going on with the monsoon?
The monsoon is a very touchy creature. It basically, I hear the same thing on social media. Well, we're having the greatest monsoon of all time. If you're in Wickenburg, that's what they're saying. If you're in Southeast Valley, you're saying, well, where has it been? That's the way the monsoon works. It's convective, and that means that parts of the valley get hit really hard, other parts aren't going to get so much. We'll get it eventually, but right now, for particularly the eastern part of the valley, we just haven't seen that big rainfall yet.
And you're saying the El Nino could combine with the monsoon or influence the monsoon?
Influence. Basically, the moisture that is the energy source for our storms is coming from the Gulf of California and the Pacific Ocean. Well, if the Pacific Ocean is hot, that means a lot more moisture gets up into the air, and as that gets pulled into Arizona, it has the potential to create a lot more storms.
Creating storms, are we talking these nasty thunderstorms and lightning storms, or like we saw a little bit with Dolores here, just a lot of rain?
Because they're tropical in nature, it's probably going to be more the lot of rain type of situation. We don't see a lot of, to get the more impressive things like tornadoes and hail and this type of thing, you need to have a little bit more upper air things. And usually with our monsoon, we don't see those. So flash flooding is going to be the really big thing to worry about over the next couple months.
I'll bet. And last question here, with an El Nino and a strong El Nino at that, what does it do to temperatures? Are we going to have those days when we get down to the 20s and everyone's ficus tree burns and stuff like that? Or does it have more of a moderating influence?
It has more of a moderating influence, and it's going to be probably a touch on the humid side. So, you know, when you think of the fall where you can go out and enjoy the nice crisp evenings, we might not have so many of those this year because the moisture is going to be more continuous than it has been in previous years.
So basically rain from now to February.
In spurts.
All right. Randy, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Phoenix resident Becky Fiola spent a decade caring for her husband who suffered from Huntington's disease. She then worked with thousands of families to help them make decisions regarding health care for an ill or aging loved one. And that experience led to the writing of The Elder Care Consultant, your guide to making the best choices possible. We welcome Becky Fiola to Arizona Horizon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ted.
Let's get to your experience, and we'll kind of start from there because that is a bit of a foundation for what you do. Talk to us about...
It's the entire foundation. My husband, Neil, was diagnosed with Huntington's disease when he was 41 years old. Huntington's, in case you don't know, in his case was like having Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and schizophrenia all rolled up together. We both retired, and for the next 8 years I took care of him by myself. We had one day, 2 days after Christmas in 2004, where he was having audio and visual hallucinations, and he physically attacked me. That was the first time he had ever done anything like that, but it was severe enough I had to call the police. He was admitted to the state psych ward, where I found out that they can actually tell you your loved one can never come home again. That's what happened. What was interesting was I had gotten so used to what was going on with him, I couldn't see it any longer. And he was progressing and needed a higher level of care that I couldn't provide. So the doctor said, you know, he will never come home with you. You have 2 days to find a care community for him, which I had no idea how to do that. I failed very badly. I went through multiple care homes until I found the right one. What I found out was that they didn't have training to handle a Huntington's patient. He was 6'5", 240 pounds, so he was large and mobile, and they were afraid of him. So I got phone calls in the middle of the night, you need to come get your husband and move him. They kept my money, which was difficult. And I decided, he passed away 4 months after moving into the care home. It progressed rapidly. And I decided at that time that I really wanted to help people who were in my position who didn't understand what to do.
So what do people that are in similar positions, what do they do? Where do they go?
Well, I think the biggest mistake I see with families is they don't recognize that they're caregivers. They have the mentality, this is my husband, I need to just handle this and do it. It's my parents, they took care of me, I'll take care of them. The first step is identifying that you are a caregiver and that you are entitled to seek out resources and ask for help. So the first thing you want to do is probably talk to your primary care physician and clearly identify what the care needs are. There's probably some specialties that you need to focus on and ask for those specialists who can help you. And then start asking for resources. What is available in Phoenix or wherever you're living that could provide them for you?
Compare assisted living facilities with assisted care in-home, because I know in-home is a growing trend.
Right. Well, I think everybody wants to stay at home. The fact is you're probably going to be able to do so unless you're having, you know, if the spouse is aging or the kids all work, it's likely you will. In-home care is a wonderful resource as long as the care levels haven't exceeded what they're capable of providing, as long as that person isn't isolated while they're at home.
Right.
So if you've got somebody who's got somebody coming in twice a day, but they're by themselves the rest of the time, it might be wise to consider moving them to a community.
And not only that, I would imagine the social aspects of being in a community, a healthcare facility, would work wonders on some folks.
I always tell clients that somebody who is isolated will decline faster mentally and physically than if they're getting that stimulation. And sometimes I hear, well, they won't participate. That doesn't matter. Just knowing people are around, hearing commotion, games being played, will do the stimulation for them.
So as far as the costs are concerned here, people want the best. They obviously want the best. But the costs can be prohibitive, can't they?
Absolutely. On average, I would say around $3,500 a month. That's one of your middle ranges of care. If you've got somebody who's got dementia or is advancing high levels of care, you could be looking at $6,000, $7,000 a month. Fortunately for our very low income families, we have the state program, Arizona Long-Term Care System, that will help pay for the cost of care. There's also the Veterans Aid and Attendance benefit that can help.
Interesting. As far as the conversation that you have with the loved one, to tell them we're going to have to put you now in an assisted care facility, or someone will be coming to your home now a lot more often, staying with you perhaps. How do you go through that conversation?
Their biggest fear is losing control of their life. And so I always start that conversation with, we are trying to keep you in control, giving you the options you need. If you wait and you fight it for too long, there may be an instant, such as my husband, where you go in the hospital and your options are taken away from you. So it will be easier if you work with us to try and identify what you need and put you in control making those decisions.
And you have to make sure that the decisions they understand, because you got to keep those bonds strong. I mean, that can be a delicate matter, can it not?
Well, it can, and unfortunately the majority of my clients have some form of dementia. So you have to really earn their trust and get them to understand you're working on their behalf, and that they will have as much influence as possible in the decision.
So if you're looking now for in-home care or you're looking for an assisted facility, the number one thing to look for, if someone out there right now says, I don't know where to begin, where to start?
Well, first of all, the care needs are the priority. The facility, not all communities provide the same types of care or even want to. So you need to match the care needs. You need to ask as many questions as you can about what they can provide for you. Second would be the cost. Obviously, people are going to be concerned about that. The very least is whether the apartment looks like their home or whether they have a special view. Many people approach it first, and that's the last consideration they should be thinking of.
I would imagine so. Okay, so where can people go? Obviously the book, you should check out the book to get information. Any other places to go? I mean, you can't get too much information here, can you?
My business website, www.assistedlivingadvantage.com, We'll provide resources, places you can call. I never let somebody call my office where I don't give them a resource to walk away with.
All right. Well, congratulations on the book and for the fact that you're helping so many folks. It seems like almost everyone is involved in this some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And Tuesday on Arizona Horizon, we will update gas prices and look at how those prices could be affected by the Iran nuclear deal. And we'll have the latest Arizona tourism facts and figures. It's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.